I didn't think much of it at first. You know, when your partner starts to drift away, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not like one day they're holding your hand and the next they're pulling it away. It's more like slow, subtle change, like a quiet erosion. Bit by bit, something seems to vanish every day. My name's Jake. I'm 38 and I've been married to Lucy for 8 years. We met when we were both in our 20s, working at a retail store. She was carefree, adventurous, full of energy. The kind of person who would grab my hand and drag me out into the rain just because a song we both loved played from someone's car. I love that about her. I still do, in some way. Or maybe I just miss the person she used to be. The last few years, though, it felt like I was living with a shadow of her. Same face, same body, same voice, but there was no warmth left. Conversations became robotic. Her touch became rare. I tried planning dinners, outings, or even just asking her to join me on the couch to watch a show, but there was always an excuse. She was tired, she had a headache, she was busy, she needed space. And like a fool, I gave it to her. Lucy started going out more with her coworkers, her sister, or old friends. I trusted her, or at least I tried to. I didn't want to be the possessive husband who questioned her every move. But gradually, I noticed she stopped inviting me to most things. Even when I offered to come, she would say, "It's just a girls' night. You wouldn't enjoy it." I would smile and nod, pretending it didn't sting every time. Then came the gathering. 'Twas a large party hosted by one of Lucy's colleagues. There were a mix of people from work, their friends, and a few strangers. Lucy said it would be nice if I came, but she said it in the way you ask a child if they want to go grocery shopping. Like it was optional, like my presence didn't matter. Still, I went. I put on a nice shirt, got a haircut, and even brought a bottle of wine. I wanted to be a part of her world again. I wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, the old Lucy would show up that night. She looked stunning. I won't lie. She wore a black dress that fit her perfectly and heels that made her move with the kind of confidence I used to adore. In the car, I told her how beautiful she looked. She smiled, but it was the kind of smile you give after receiving a thank you for a trivial favor. When we got to the party, she lit up. She laughed, hugged people, and made the rounds like she was the star of the show. But she never introduced me. I stood there beside her while she chatted with the crowd, and no one bothered to ask who I was. She didn't offer to explain. She just kept talking about work, gossip, vacations, and someone's new shoes. I stood there holding my drink like it was a prop. I tried to join in a few times, but it felt like I was a coat rack with opinions. Eventually, Lucy drifted away into the crowd without saying a word. She didn't even look back. I stood there trying to stay calm, not wanting to appear desperate or needy. But it was clear. I was alone at a party my wife had invited me to, and she was, acting like I didn't exist. I sat on the couch for a while, sipping my drink, making small talk with a guy named David, who didn't seem too thrilled about the conversation. Every now and then, I'd spot Lucy laughing, her head thrown back, leaning in toward people. But she never looked my way. I wish I could say I was angry, but honestly, I just felt empty. Like something inside me had been switched off without me even knowing it. That's when Emily came over. I'd met Emily a couple of times before. She worked with Lucy. She was in her late 20s, with red hair and a sprinkle of freckles. She was always kind, but we never really talked much. That night, though, she walked right up to me, looked me in the eyes, and asked, "Are you okay?" I must have looked puzzled because she added, "You've been sitting here by yourself for an hour. Lucy's been a little busy, huh?" I let out a bitter laugh. "She's working the room," I said. Emily rolled her eyes. "She's pretending." "She's single." Stared at her, surprised by how blunt she was. "Sorry," she shrugged. "But I hate seeing good people get ignored like that." "You look miserable." I didn't know what to say. It was like she really saw me for the first time in ages. Then out of nowhere, she grabbed my hand and said, "Come on, dance with me." At first, I thought she was joking, but she wasn't. She didn't ask for permission. She simply pulled me toward the small area where a few people were dancing. Suddenly, there I was, awkwardly swaying to some old pop song, holding hands with Lucy's friend. And Emily smiled, not in a flirty way, but just with kindness, warmth, and presence. I glanced over at Lucy. Her smile faltered in the middle of her conversation. She quickly turned away, but I saw it. That moment shattered something inside me. Not because I was trying to get back at her, or because I suddenly felt desirable, but because it made me realize something. I had been invisible to the one person who was supposed to care about me the most. And the only reason someone noticed me was because I looked pathetic enough to warrant sympathy. The rest of the evening continued, but nothing could erase that realization. The rest of the night felt like a blur. I danced with Emily for maybe 2 songs. We didn't say much after that, but it was enough. Enough to remind me that I deserved more, that I wasn't imagining things, that I wasn't asking too much to just be noticed. We left the party quietly. Lucy didn't bring up the dance or ask how I was feeling. She just stared at her phone. The entire ride back, but inside I knew something had shifted. I knew things wouldn't be the same, and truthfully, I didn't want them to be. After that evening, something inside me refused to return to how things had been. It wasn't like I came home ready to file for divorce or make a big scene. No, I still cared for Lucy. At least I thought I did. Or maybe I loved the idea of her. The version of her that I was still holding on to, even though she'd been gone for a long time. But something inside me changed, quietly but firmly. The kind of change that builds up without you realizing, sitting deep in your chest, growing roots. I began noticing things more. I started feeling everything more and less. At the same time, her silences stung. Her dismissiveness hurt even more. But at the same time, the grip she had on me was starting to loosen. The woman I once adored was beginning to feel like a stranger. The Monday after the party, I got a message on Instagram. It was from Emily. "Hey, I hope you're doing better. I'm sorry if that dance crossed a line. You looked like you needed someone to remind you that you matter." That hit me harder than I expected because she wasn't wrong. He messaged a bit. Nothing inappropriate, just honest. She asked how things were with Lucy. I told her things were complicated, which felt like the safest way to sum up the end of a marriage. Emily sent a voice note once saying, "You deserve someone who looks at you like you're important, not like you're some ghost in her way." That line stayed with me for days. Over the next few weeks, Lucy acted like the party never happened. She never mentioned the dance, never commented on me talking to Emily, just back to the usual. Phone glued to her hand, short replies, late nights out with coworkers. Her energy drained me. It felt like she was just being polite to someone she didn't care about. And I tried. God, I tried. I brought home her favorite wine one night. She barely acknowledged it. I suggested a weekend getaway, just the 2 of us. She said she had too much work. I even suggested counseling, and she scoffed, saying I was being overly dramatic. That's when I stopped trying to chase her. I stopped checking her phone, stopped asking where she was, stopped waiting up for her. I stopped trying to start conversations she clearly didn't want to have. Instead, I started focusing on myself. I began working out again. Nothing too intense. At first, just long walks, then light weights in the garage. I started listening to podcasts about self-improvement instead of relationships. I even picked up a side job doing design work at night, not for the money, but to remind myself that I had a life outside of being ignored by my wife. Emily didn't fade away, though. She'd check in with a meme, a short message here and there. Once, she said, "Your eyes looked so empty that night, but when we danced, I saw the real you. I hope you bring him back." That message hit me hard because it had been years since anyone looked at me with hope for my future. I want to be clear, Millie wasn't flirting. She wasn't trying to seduce me. There were no hidden agendas, no late-night calls. She was just being there, something Lucy hadn't been in a long time. Then Emily told me something that changed everything. We were talking about music one night, swapping Spotify playlists, when she suddenly said, I don't mean to overstep, but Lucy talks about you like you're a burden, like you're just this sad guy she ended up with. I stared at the message for a while. She didn't say it exactly like that, but close enough. She rolls her eyes when your name comes up. Makes jokes like you're this boring guy who's always trying too hard. I used to think she was just venting, but after that party, I'm not so sure. That stung. Not just because it was cruel, but because I had felt that exact way for months. Contempt, the rejection, the coldness. But hearing that she was mocking me behind my back was a whole new kind of hurt. It wasn't just about a failing marriage. It was about the loss of respect. And once respect is gone, love has no chance. That night, I sat alone in our bedroom. Lucy had gone out again, and I just cried. I didn't even know where the tears came from. It wasn't anger. It wasn't self-pity. It was grief. Grief for the man I used to be, the man who gave everything to a woman who saw him as a joke. But that grief was also the start of something new. Because once the tears stopped, something clicked inside me. I didn't need to beg Lucy to love me again. I didn't need to try to fix things or explain myself. I didn't need to prove my worth to someone who had already decided I had none. From that moment on, I stopped being her husband in my heart, even if ... the paperwork hadn't caught up yet. Over the next few weeks, I started changing. I stopped offering information, stopped waiting for her attention, focused on myself, my work, my peace, my future. She noticed, but not in a loving way. It was more like confusion, maybe even irritation. She would ask, "Why are you so quiet?" Or, "Are you mad about something?" I'd just reply, "No, I'm just focused." And I was. I was focused on moving forward, on reclaiming my life. Emily and I started talking again. Nothing inappropriate, just honest exchanges. She told me, "You deserve happiness, whether it's on your own or with someone new. You've got more light in you than she ever saw." That hit me hard because she was right. I had spent so long begging someone to love me while ignoring my own need for affection. All it took was one simple dance with someone who looked me in the eyes and said, "You matter." That dance wasn't the beginning of an affair. It wasn't even the start of a new romance. It was just the beginning of me coming back to life. And Megan, she had no idea yet. But the man she ignored that night was already walking away. People assume that when a marriage ends, it's dramatic shouting, slamming doors, lawyers involved. But the truth is, many marriages end quietly, like a fire that burns out in the middle of the night. No big explosion, just cold ashes in the morning. That's how it was with Megan and me. By the time I made the decision to walk away, I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I was just done. And that's what confuses people the most. How a man can love deeply, give everything, fight hard, and then suddenly stop. But it's not sudden. It's years of being disrespected, of being ignored, of begging to be seen. Until one day, you realize you have nothing left to give. That day came on Saturday. It was Megan's sister's birthday, and we were invited to a rooftop bar. Downtown, Megan didn't even ask if I wanted to go. She just said we need to leave at 7, like I was just another part of her routine. No warmth, no "Babe, are you coming?" It's cold expectation. I got dressed in silence. She wore a tight green dress, curled her hair, and spent 20 minutes choosing earrings. For a moment, I found myself watching her the way I used to, but it quickly passed. I knew none of that was for me. We got there, and it was Dacia Vu. Megan immediately lit up in front of everyone else. She greeted her sister with over-the-top excitement, hugged people like she was in a romantic comedy, and melted into the crowd. Like she was meant to be there. She didn't introduce me to anyone. I stood by the bar, sipping a beer I didn't even care for, watching her act like I was her personal chauffeur. But I wasn't bitter anymore. This time, I watched it all with calm detachment, like I was observing a stranger I once knew. In a way, I was. I took a seat near the edge of the rooftop, overlooking the city lights. The wind was cold, but I didn't care. I liked the quiet out there, no fake smiles, no shallow small talk, just peace. For once, I wasn't trying to fix anything. I wasn't wondering how to get her attention, wasn't playing the fool anymore. About an hour later, Emily showed up. I hadn't seen her since the night of the party. We'd kept in touch through messages, but nothing ever crossed the line. She wasn't someone I relied on emotionally. She was just someone who helped me see that I had options. But when she walked in, our eyes met, and something inside me just steadied. She came over, gave a small smile, and sat beside me. "Didn't expect to see you here," I said quietly. "My roommate's friends with Megan's sister." She shrugged. "Small world." We talked about nothing and everything. She asked how I was, and for once I answered honestly. "I'm okay," I said. "Really okay? I think I'm finally ready to let go." She didn't ask of what she knew. "I'm glad," she replied. "You look lighter, Kate, like you've stopped carrying someone else's weight." That hit deep. About halfway through the evening, Megan came over. Her face was tight. Her eyes flicked between me and Emily. "I've been looking for you," she said. "No, you haven't," I replied calmly. She blinked, trying to decide whether to argue or force a smile. She chose passive aggression. "I just thought you'd be mingling instead of sulking in the corner." Emily gave me a discreet look, the kind that said, "I'll leave if you want me to," but I shook my head. "I'm not sulking," I said. "I'm just not pretending anymore." Megan's expression hardened. "Pretending what?" I stood up. I had been rehearsing this moment for weeks, but now that it was here, I didn't need a script. My heart was still, my voice steady. "I'm done pretending we're okay. I'm done being ignored, mocked, or treated like I'm an obligation you regret. I'm not your emotional punching bag. I'm not your backup plan. I'm your husband. Or at least I was before you stopped caring." She stared at me, stunned. A few people nearby turned their heads. "You're making a scene," she hissed. "No," I replied, shaking my head. "I've been quiet for years. This is me finally speaking." I turned to Emily. "Thank you for reminding me I deserve better." Then I turned back to Megan and said the rest of what I needed to say. Words I never imagined I'd have the courage to speak. "I'm leaving tonight." "You don't need to keep pretending. You're free now." She scoffed. "You're overreacting." I leaned in just a little, not to argue, but to make sure she truly heard me. "No, Lucy, I was overreacting when I cried alone at night, wondering why I wasn't enough. I was overreacting when I begged for attention, starving for affection. This is me choosing peace." With that, I walked away. No slamming doors, no tears, no second glances. I left quietly. I went home, grabbed a small bag, found a temporary place on the other side of town, switched off my phone. The following days were quiet, almost surreal. I took long walks, made simple meals for myself, and for the first time in months, I slept through the night. Lucy texted a couple of times, then called, and even showed up at my sister's house, asking if I was okay. My sister calmly responded, "He's fine. He just finally stopped chasing after something that wasn't coming back." Weeks went by. I started therapy, reconnected with old friends I had neglected during the marriage. I rebuilt my life piece by piece. And Lucy. Eventually, she sent a lengthy email full of apologies, regrets, and excuses. Part of me, the person I once was, almost wanted to believe her. But the new me, the one who had found clarity that night, simply smiled. I never responded. I didn't need to hurt her. I didn't need to seek revenge. I didn't need to prove anything. I had done what most people are too scared to do. I stopped being the fool. One chose myself, and I walked away.